Let's go. I'm going to the Oklahoma game. We'll tell you all about that. I'm so excited to be in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. Now, I have a bone to pick with the college football playoff. We'll get into that a little bit later, but JAHKEEM Thanos Stewart. We're talking about the number one defensive lineman in all of college football recruiting. Sam Spiegelman says he is picking USC. Yes, he put in an official prediction on the bigoldrivals.com site. Is this a big loss for LSU? Now, I believe that it is, unless you want to factor in something called cost. Life is all about a cost-benefit analysis. Every decision, whoever you are in life, is a cost-benefit analysis, whether you're talking about the actual Baker Mayfield, Tommy DeVito moolah, or if you're talking about a decision that doesn't involve money, such as potentially you deciding to go spend time with your friends, right? A lot of you have family, friends coming in for Thanksgiving, and you all go through it. Your high school buddies invite you to the local joint, and you're deciding, well, am I going to go out, spend money, spend time with friends I never see anymore, or am I going to stay at home and drink? Everything is a cost-benefit analysis. Everything. And LSU has spent a lot of resources and time in recruiting JAHKEEM Thanos Stewart. But now he is leaning towards USC, according to Sam Spiegelman. We also know he's been very interested in Oregon and, in particular, Ohio State with Larry Johnson and all the first-round picks that Ohio State has had on their defensive line. The problem with any one of us discussing cost-benefit analysis with any one recruit is you don't know the cost. You don't. You don't know LSU's salary cap. You don't know in this world. Because what we learned today with Bryce Underwood is, according to Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, I decided to take it upon myself to announce that I am willing to pay for a recruit, pay for the best quarterback in all of college football. Then someone that listens to a show happens to be married to the second richest man in the world, and which is a drop in the bucket for him. They were able to conjure up an offer that was double ours. So we have to make a cost-benefit analysis. Could we find the money it would potentially cost to go pay Bryce Underwood? Sure, we could have found the money, but they didn't think it was worth it. But you see, we know Bryce Underwood's number. You don't know any recruit's number because there is a number. There's a number with Thanos Stewart. There's a number with DJ Pickett, the elite five-star guys. Now, it is amazing from what I've learned. There are quite a few players in this class that don't really care about that aspect. And they are really good football players. So the cost-benefit analysis with recruiting them is that you don't have to worry about that too much. A guy like Damian Shanklin, who is a top 100 defensive lineman from Indianapolis. He said he has been pursued heavily by multiple schools. He has shut it down. I've spoken to a few kids in this class, and they're locked in if a few things remain intact, but it's not a money thing, okay? We don't know what Thanos' number is. When you are the number one player in your position, you can have leverage like few others can have in any recruiting class. So whatever the case may be, I don't know what USC's paying him. I don't know what LSU's offered him. And I'll be honest, I don't know a gazillion% if money is not that big a deal to him. But if I was in his shoes, it would matter. Because if I'm a five-star defensive lineman and you could tell me without ever playing a college snap of football, I could make $1,000,000? That sounds pretty nice. Huh? 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 It sounds pretty damn nice. So, look, I just think before we say anything about Thanos or any one recruit, let's understand that there's, especially nowadays, more that we don't know than we do. But that was the big LSU story today. I would love for him to go to LSU. I really, really, really would. Because I do think he's a pretty good player. I do. I will say historically, the five-star elite hit rate for defensive linemen is hit or miss. It just is, right? The elite guys. Okay, some are unfreaking believably special. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney's one of those guys. Walter Nolan this year for Ole Miss, a transfer from Texas A&M. Those were the elite guys. And then you have some others like a Corey Foreman who went to USC and it didn't work out. He was a total bust. So it's a mixed bag. But in this case, I just hope Thanos picks LSU. But it's not looking like that. It's kind of always felt that way. So I am hoping for the best. But here's the thing. We are in the college football season. I'm not too worried about recruiting. That's the biggest story today. But for the rest of the week, we'll mostly focus on Oklahoma. So type Y for yes. Type in for no. Is this a must-win game for Brian Kelly? Type Y for yes, type in for no. And before I do that, I want to welcome in everybody. Holden, Bill, Tyler, Chance, LA Mom, Sam says DJ Pickett is a special prospect. Tyler, a very happy holidays to you. Happy Turkey Day. A lot of you are saying no. We say hi to Tony. He says yes. Bill says yes. I'll touch on this. Pegasus, you losing Savion Jones and Swinson, you need Stewart. Now, full disclosure, Savion Jones can come back. He can. Uh, I believe he can. I think I looked at this the other day. We did hear from Brian Kelly on Monday that our dear beloved CJ Daniels, love me some CJ Daniels, will be back. So yeah, Savion Jones, according to my records, only recorded stats in 3 games in 2021. So he still has a year left. So he could come back, and that obviously helps out. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's not a COVID year thing with him. Now, I want to talk about the must-win thing. I don't believe this is a must-win. We know he's coming back next season. If he would have lost to Vanderbilt and then lost to Oklahoma and ended the season with 5 losses, that would be too much to overcome in my mind. I still think they would have kept him, but it would have made the decision 50-50. But if we lose to Oklahoma, which now would look a little bit better considering they just beat Alabama. This is not a must-win game for LSU. It's not. In fact, I can argue it's the exact opposite of that. I can even argue that right now this is going to piss a lot of people off, and this is going to go against everything that I stand for. Everything. Because you guys know, when it comes to college football and doing the YouTube thing, there is few things I love to discuss more than the actual games. We only get 12 of these games a year. That's it. We only get 12. And we'll also get a bowl game, which a lot of you won't care about, and a lot of our players won't really care about. We only get 13 of these things. The college football offseason is more brutal than any other offseason. It is not even close. College basketball, you get exhibitions and so many more games. Same thing in baseball. Same thing in every other sport. College football, we only get 12. This is the last full week of games that we have. That's part of the downside of me actually going to the game. I got to go get down to the best city in America and really excited. Just learned that to me, the best LSU football player of the modern era, when you factor in the entire career, Patrick Peterson will be on campus this weekend. Pretty excited about that. Spoke to Patrick a little bit earlier today. Obviously, he's a big, big, big friend of the channel. We're still working on getting him on. And he's been on here before. He's hopped on a Vegas stream or Vegas stream in USC. But you guys know how much I love that guy. Really excited about that. I'm excited that we're still playing the game. We're playing Oklahoma. Think about the history of LSU football. Oklahoma. Think about the future of LSU football. We're going to be playing Oklahoma a lot. This could be our permanent rival, whether you like it or not. It likely, if we have a one permanent rival team, it's going to be Oklahoma. Sorry to tell it to you. Sorry to tell you guys. All right. What I want to tell you is even though Oklahoma, the last two times we played them were playoff games, postseason games, and we played two of the best games in program history, 21-14 over Tommy Harris and Teddy Lehman and that Oklahoma team. Oh, yeah, the Jason White guy who won the Heisman. And then in 2019 LSU. Justin Jefferson. Chris Curry. Who remembers Chris Curry? A former number 18. Was wearing number 24 at the time. Stepped up for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That Joe Burrow guy had a good game too. Probably the most complete four-quarter big game that we've ever played. Pure domination. Love it. And all those things are great. But I could make a very strong case that this week it is more important for LSU to not focus on this game. I would prefer Brian Kelly to not focus on this game plan. Because if you listen to the Monday press conference, half of the questions were about the future. And the next couple of weeks of LSU football are so huge. They are so huge. Brian Kelly has massive, big picture decisions he's going to have to make. If he is going to say, hey, we're going to hit the portal harder than we've ever hit the portal before, which is not what he said specifically, but he did say we got to hit this portal hard. Well, you know what you got to do to hit the portal hard? Be ready for it. You got to start looking at your roster. Things are about to start moving really fast. So I can make a case starting to get ready for that is more important than getting ready for this game. And I hate to say it, but it's true. You have got to do some heavy convincing for the good players on this team to come back. Right? There are some players who I think their draft status is bulletproof at this point. Of course, Will Campbell is one of those guys. It's really hard to convince this guy to come back. I would love for him to. but I don't know. I don't think that's plausible at this point. I think there's a high likelihood next season he'll be protecting Drake May's blind side. Also, a guy like Mason Taylor, it's gonna be really hard to convince him to come back. He, of course, has a father who's in the NFL, so he knows the process. I also think Mason is going to realize that this might be his peak. Now, I prefer he come back because we do not have an immediate replacement for him, but that's hard. He's a top 3 tight end on pretty much every NFL draft board. And when I say tight end, I'm not talking about quasi tight end. There's a few of those guys in here for this draft class that aren't really tight ends. So I think those two, it's hard. It's hard. Obviously, I'd prefer to have him back. Emory Jones, that is truly a fringe decision. All right. And if I was advising Emory Jones, I would seriously consider coming back. They'll probably give you number 18. You'll be the hometown Baton Rouge hero. You can prove yourself at left tackle if you want to. I think there's a lot of benefits of that. So I am open to Emory Jones coming back. I think it's a little bit more 50-50. And then you have other situations, which you won't dive too deep into. Guys like Caleb Jackson, do you want to run it? You want to literally run it back? Caleb, after a tough season, it's going to be interesting. And then on the defensive side, I think the big one will be Savion Jones. I do. Because I could see him getting drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. But I don't know what his role would be at the next level. I really don't know. I think it would be kinda like a Karlaftis role with the Chiefs. But I think he's coming back, and I would tell him to come back. So, yeah, it's a weird thing. A guy like Sage Ryan, do you want him back? Redshirted in 2021, only played in 2 games. So 2022, 2023, 2024. Do you want him back? He entered the portal last season. Those things, along with figuring out what you wanna do in the portal, I would actually prefer Brian Kelly to focus on that and have your actual coordinators come up with the game plan, which, you know, every week coaches have to deal with big picture things and then the game plan. But this game, I've seen this a few different places. Brian Kelly must win this game, or else we would have lost 4 out of our last 5 games. All right. I'm telling you right now, if he had lost all 5 of his last games, that is completely different than losing 4 out of your last 5. Okay? He's out of Carvis, and there you go. Let's go to Brian. He says, I doubt Stewart comes to LSU, but I do believe LSU can allocate the funds to build competitive rosters. All right. I believe his name is Eric Henderson at USC. He's a really good defensive line coach, and he is from Carr in New Orleans, and he is the USC defensive line coach. He, I don't know. I hopped on a few phone calls about this today, and yeah, I could say this. I'm not comfortable to say and go with Sam Spiegelman a gazillion percent that he's going to pick USC. Speaks, of course, is way more connected in the recruiting circles. I don't like doing the recruiting stuff for the choice of where a kid's going to go. but I can tell you that we are very behind in this recruitment, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. There is no such thing as a must-get recruit, all right? Now, one more thing on the Underwood thing. Do I think he's really good? Yeah, I really, really, really do. But it's a cost benefit analysis, like we led the show. This money could go elsewhere. We all make those choices. Now, I wanna have one uncomfortable conversation. We made a bad decision last year, not being more organized in our NIL efforts, because I will say the portal is going to be that much more competitive. I think it's going to be so hard to do what Ole Miss did this last portal cycle. I really do believe so. What they did was truly revolutionary in particular. And the reason why we won't recognize it is because this team choked away an all-time great roster just for Lane Kiffin to get in his own way. And a lot of bad luck, bad injuries, because you wanna know why? They're all damn miss. That's why, okay? They're all damn miss. It's the bottom line. They're the Here's the thing, this was told to me one day, and it's always stuck with me when it comes to a championship of some sort, and normally it holds true. Can you visualize so and so holding a championship trophy? I, for the last month, have said if Ole Miss gets to the playoffs, they're gonna win the national championship. They have been the best team I've seen. They're better than a lot of teams in the playoff. But could I ever actually visualize Ole Miss winning a football national championship? No. It's just not gonna happen for a school like that. Baseball, sure, but not football. Some schools are just not meant for it. They're not built for it. The moment is bigger than them. Here's Mick. Why would anybody want to go to USC at this point? Pegasus said, I would consider Los Angeles too at the back. All right. Here's a problem with playing football at USC. All right. There's still some of us that romanticize the Reggie Bush era. And if you are one of our younger viewers, let's say you're in your early 20s or you're currently at LSU and you're watching this channel, I cannot state enough. I really, really, really can't state how big Reggie Bush at USC was. It was massive. Like, I'm not gonna say it was like early LeBron, early Tiger Woods level hysteria, but Reggie Bush was so big. Like, I mean, he was so, so, so big. And, it was a big reason why we didn't get Joe McKnight. I know of a few LSU offensive skill position players that really wanted to go to USC. The way Tyrann Mathieu is with every young defensive back, Reggie Bush was for every running back. Like, he was so big. But the problem is it's hard to be big in LA. You have got to have aura. You've got to have pizzazz. You have got to be truly a star to be big in LA. If you're a star at LSU, if you're a very good player at LSU, you will be worshiped by everyone in the entire state of Louisiana and honestly in the entire SEC. I mean, that Whit Weeks pick six versus Arkansas wasn't a pick six, but you guys know what I'm saying. Oh, he was all over the SEC message boards, cracking the beer, all that stuff. You do that at USC, it's just, flash in the you're literally a big fish in the most massive pond in the world. If you wanna be a star, you play at LSU. And maybe not being a star is not a big deal, it's just maybe USC is just the highest bidder, or you like the coach a lot. But do you ever think it'll be in a bigger the biggest if star power and brand power is worth something to you, do you think people in LA are gonna care in a city where LeBron James and Shohei Ohtani exist? I mean, they're arguably the 2 most talented players their respective sports have ever seen. They they play 30 minutes from each other. LSU, if you're good, you're on billboards. You're on every billboard in Baton Rouge, every single one. Trust me. I know. I can't wait to see him. I'm excited to go to Baton Rouge and hadn't been since before the season. Uh, I'm ready to see Flau'jae on every billboard. I'm ready to see all our guys, Will Campbell, whoever else, Livy Dunn. Memphis says, "I heard he wanted to be in some movies or commercials, so maybe they promised him something like that." Well, his name is Thanos, so maybe yeah, Now I'll tell you this: if he is Ndamukong Suh level good or Jadeveon Clowney, then sure, he might be in a commercial with LeBron. You never know. Yeah, I love LA. I mean, some of our biggest viewers are in LA. Van, Taylor, some of our biggest supporters are I freaking love LA. And I will say, okay, 19 of you have liked this stream. Please hit the like. The Rose Bowl is college football's best venue. Now, I'm saying the actual Rose Bowl itself with the parade and the actual game, nothing will ever touch that college football experience for me. Nothing. I'm telling you, like, it really was that revolutionary. And the Rose Bowl parade I went to, that it was actually cut short because a float caught on fire. But it's peak. It's peak. So good. Like, I'm not kidding. It's good. And there's like these there's so many college football bloggers and Twitter personalities. I love GFed. For those that know who GFed is, I freaking love that. And I used to do what he did, well, what he does. Try and sneak in as many college football stadiums as possible. Uh, there was one really, really, really big one that I was able to get into. I don't know if I should reveal that one. It was pretty big. It was pretty big. Uh, but when I was there, I was like, "I've gotta touch this field." I've always wanted to touch this field, and one day I'll reveal where that was. Uh, but yeah, I when I was traveling for comedy, I took a special trip to Morgantown, West Virginia. I loved West Virginia. Loved West Virginia. Steve Slayton, you had to be there. You had to be there. Okay. Now, we get our first super chat from Julie. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. I'm making sure I want to talk about this next. Coming up, did one SEC school just get taken to the cleaners by the College Football Playoff Committee? They did, but it might not matter. That's coming up. Book your 360 spin booth experience today with Zion Imaging. Yes, that's my buddy Jaron Thomas who started this venture years ago. And look at the smiles on these faces. This state-of-the-art photo booth is so incredible. I work in the wedding and event industry, and anytime I see a 360 photo booth, it takes your event, whether it's a reunion, a wedding, a conference, no matter what it is, it takes it to another level. Give them a follow on Facebook. Book them today. There is a special deal going on now where you can get up to 40% off. This is all the info. Give them a call today, 318-469-4265, or go to Zion Imaging. That's XYAN Imaging.com. All righty. I want to shout out Zion Imaging. We're actually teaming up and doing a gig together pretty soon. Jaron Thomas, also a big supporter of Black OTD and the whole fam. Make sure you book them today. ZionImaging.com. Home is where the heart is, and our friends at NOPOD Roofing really takes that to heart. 504-810-8744. Give them a call today for all of your roofing needs. And one of my favorite things about NOPOD Roofing is their versatility. They not only do roofing, they do siding, they do painting, they do tree removal, fencing, anything home improvement. Our friends at NOPOD will get you straight. Give them a call today at 504-810-8744 and let them know PHL and Carter the Power sent you. We never overpromise and always over-deliver with NOPOD, baby. Let's go. Dental health is wealth, and our friends at Sequoia Dental are looking to help you feel like a more confident person. Dr. William Wilson and his team of experts do everything in their power to make this experience for you not only comfortable, but fun. Yes, take a look at this after and before photo. That guy definitely got himself a date thanks to Sequoia Dental. From teeth whitening to cosmetic surgery to, guess what? Botox. Yes, they do Botox. Call my friend Dr. William Wilson today, or just go book your appointment at sequoiadental.com. All righty, and a special shout out to our friends at the nooffseason.com network. Your one-on-one sports car consultation, please hit us up. No Offseason, nooffseason.com. First month of a sports car consultation is also free. An actual one with Paul Hickey and his staff. So these are the latest college football playoff rankings. And y'all, I cannot state enough that one thing reigns supreme in the sport that we love, and that is avoiding losing. That is the single most important thing you need to do in college football. And this season is further proof of that very thing. I want you to take a look at the top 12, and we'll get to the actual playoff rankings if the playoff were to start today. All right. Now, what do we know about all these teams? Well, every one of these teams outside of Oregon and maybe Ohio State have extreme flaws in their resumes. Extreme. Even Texas at number 3, whose best win this season is Vanderbilt, and literally on the ESPN graphic itself, their second best win is Arkansas. That is a real fact. Penn State has also not beaten anyone. Notre Dame has a Northern Illinois loss, and their 2 best wins are service academies. Miami, this is the perfect example of avoiding losing is more important than winning. What is the story of Miami's season? Well, it's Cam Ward, right? Yeah, true. They're fun offense. And the U is back. That is absolutely fan-effing-tastic. But the God's honest truth is they avoid losses versus Virginia Tech on a very lucky overturn on a Hail Mary. That game, Virginia Tech led. And an absolute bat-you-know-what crazy California ending where the most obvious targeting in the history of targeting was overturned. And then we get to Georgia. Georgia actually deserves to be in here. Their resume is all about who they've beaten. Georgia has beaten Clemson and blown them out. Georgia has beaten number 8 Tennessee. And by the way, they blew them out. Georgia has beaten, they didn't beat them, but they came back and lost a close game versus number 13 Tennessee. Georgia has big wins. Absolutely, positively big wins. We go to Tennessee. Tennessee, they have one big win. They beat Alabama 24-17. But what do we know about Alabama? They have sucked on the road outside of us. And why did they suck versus us? Well, we can't stop a quarterback run to save our life. But Alabama has been terrible on the road. Alabama has lost more road games than won this year. And they're right outside the field. Alabama lost to middle-of-the-road Vanderbilt. Alabama got blown their brakes off by a bottom 5 SEC team in Oklahoma. And then, of course, Alabama also lost to Tennessee. SMU, every ACC resume is what it is. Indiana, best win is Boise State. One loss to Oregon. I am perfectly fine with letting a group of 5 team in. Perfectly fine. I'm also perfectly fine with every power conference getting at least one team in, even if it means number 16 Arizona State getting into the field, which they would be at this point. And then number 12, Clemson, obviously 2 losses, Louisville, and then, of course, blown out by Georgia. But this is y'all. In my life, I have never seen a college football playoff ranking worse than this one. Number 13, Alabama. Number 14, Ole Miss. Y'all, Ole Miss is getting screwed. I have never seen this in my life. Never. Are we blind to what happened this past weekend? Are we blind? Blind? Like is anyone? Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Are we blind? Are we blind? Are we Stevie Wonder? How could Alabama be ranked ahead of Ole Miss? Ole Miss, you've got to actually sit and watch these games. Ole Miss went on the road and lost to Florida. If you can't see that DJ Lagway is going to be a serious Heisman contender over the next 2 seasons, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And in that game, Ole Miss had a gazillion injuries happen during the game. Trey Harris hurt. Their starting center hurt. They had a lot of things go against them. Not every team in the SEC had to play that version of DJ Lagway. I'm not sure if Georgia is beating Florida if DJ Lagway never gets hurt. Ole Miss has not been blown out this season. They have not been blown out. A 24-3 loss versus a mid-Oklahoma team is inexcusable. I'm sorry. I can't get down with that. I can't do it. And what did Ole Miss do this season? Well, they lost a game to LSU where they never trailed. They never trailed. They lost a bad game to Kentucky. There's no excusing that. But they weren't blown out like Alabama was by Oklahoma this weekend. And Kentucky won on a miraculous 4th and 7. And Trey Harris got hurt that game too. Now, he was able to play the rest of the game, so I don't really count. But still. Then Ole Miss lost to LSU, and then you guys know that story. Ole Miss has blown out every team that they have played in all their wins. All their wins are double-digit wins. All of them. So they have 3 extremely close losses. All wins that they have are blowouts. Every single one of them. Alabama, I know the scoreline doesn't show it. That game versus USF at the beginning of the season. Let's go to Van. He wants to talk Thanos. Thank you, Van, for your super chat and your friendship. I included one of Van's friends in my video today on Bryce Young. So I will say, I say all this negative stuff about Alabama. I do want to show some love to Bryce Young for balling out this weekend versus the Chiefs. Are you kidding me? But I will tell you this, okay? Last thing on the college football playoff, and then we'll go back into the Thanos recruitment. If Ole Miss gets into the field, if I see some chaos, obviously Ole Miss is going to need Tennessee to lose versus Vanderbilt. It's a real possibility. One of my favorite college football projection models has that a 24-20 game with Tennessee winning. That's close. Also, Alabama and Auburn. Auburn's playing good football right now. I saw this earlier today, and I think Van and every one of you would enjoy this. Yo, Peyton Thorne and Jalen Milroe, like just the basic counting stats, they're identical. Yeah, you heard that right. Peyton Thorne and Jalen Milroe. And what happened before the season? I released a video on Power Hour SEC predicting all of this happening with Jalen Milroe just for that Alabama Crimson Tide fan base to flood my mentions. It wasn't even a popular video. I spent hours putting it together. Actually, days of research. And I convinced everyone, don't do the Milroe for Heisman stuff. And he faded. I started to believe like many of us did. But look, I'm telling you right now, one last thing on the playoff thing, all right? If I hear another person say, well, South Carolina, 3-loss South Carolina deserves to get into the field. I don't care if they even beat Clemson. How can you justify 3-loss South Carolina with an SEC schedule getting in over 3-loss Ole Miss when Ole Miss went into your crib and beat you 27-3? 27-3. You can't put South Carolina in the field over Ole Miss when you had the same amount of losses Same amount of the advanced metrics are very similar. Ole Miss's advanced metrics are actually way better. I can't put a 3-loss team in over another 3-loss team in when that team beat you in your house 27-3. I swear to God. I swear to God. I'll be honest, man. Gloves are off now. He's not signed. But Thanos, I don't think was, and he still could. Some guys just, it happens every year with an elite guy from Louisiana. Sometimes it's multiples. And I do think we overrate like any individual kid's decision of not picking LSU. There's always going to be at least one can't-miss kid in every class. Tackett Curtis was a top 100 recruit. Yeah, I mean, you can go back and listen to all the live chats. Anyone that knew anything about the day-to-day recruiting stuff would tell you that he was never going to LSU. Never. Arch Manning, never going to LSU. Never. Never. It's every year. And even seasons, there are players who have a really good recruiting ranking and want to go to LSU, but have people pulling them in opposite directions to go somewhere else. Jacoby Matthews is one of those guys. Jacoby Matthews wanted to go to LSU. But there was a lot of different levers being pulled in different directions. Okay? Then, there are a lot of LSU players that have gone on to have fantastic LSU careers, and they were pulled in different directions. Okay? I think many forget the Sage Ryan recruitment. Elite player. When I tell you, every single plugged-in recruiting analyst had him going to Alabama. Every single one of them. And he picked LSU. Thanks to some late convincing from Trev Falk. Then, there's another pretty high-profile LSU player who's now a very, very, very good pro. Who was getting pulled in many different directions and was a later signee. That was Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. But of course, he saw the light, picked LSU, and his life was changed forever. Sometimes you just want to get out the state. There's one that hurt us a few weeks ago, Le'Veon Moss. That was one where it made a lot of sense for him to get out. Okay? It happened. You're going to lose top 100 guys and even the 5 stars. Just how it is. That doesn't mean they can't ever come back. Then, this is also one thing that has always interested me in the modern era. Even with the school like LSU that has this huge homegrown advantage. We have a lot of guys on our team from Georgia. In fact, I don't know if this was seen by everyone. LSU made it a point to hammer home the Georgia Tigers. There was a photo that was floating around of quite a few LSU players from Georgia taking photos together. So It was the Weeks brothers, DJ Chester, some staffers from Georgia. And it was interesting. So, look, it's one of those things where in the portal era, there's so many guys that come into your team that you didn't know would ever be a part of LSU. There's out-of-state guys like Aaron Anderson who come back home, see the light, and put up a career season. Where will we be this season if Jamar Cain never got Braden Swinson here? Where would we be? We would not be a good football team right now. I don't know if we're beating UCLA if Braden Swinson's not playing in that game. We need the portal. So as sad as it is that you lose this guy or that guy, portal's your friend now. Let's go to Zach. Says, don't miss the super. Well, Zach, you know how much I appreciate. I would never do that to you. What are the chances of Mason Taylor 86 run? Oh, okay. This one. I didn't mean, I would never skip your stuff. Even though you live in my favorite city and I'm jealous. You actually lived in my second favorite city. And then you moved to my favorite city outside of cities in Louisiana, of course. All right. I can make a somewhat strong case that Mason Taylor returning would be just as important as Will Campbell returning, even though Will Campbell, I feel, is a better player. Because one thing that's interesting, and we brought this up in the film study, they're practically the same. Because Mason Taylor never leaves the field. Now, how uncommon is it, or how common is it, that a tight end is on the field on every single snap? It's somewhat common. Gunnar Helm of Texas. Texas, of course, is a very exotic, fun offense. He plays every snap for Texas. But there are quite a few teams that rotate their tight ends a lot. And you don't have to play every single snap. Mason Taylor plays every single snap. Now, why is that important? Well, think about tight end. Tight end could be the most physically exhausting position to play. Now, obviously, there's quite a few that would say running back or wide receiver, but guess what? You rotate a lot at those positions. Offensive line's exhausting, sure. But you're never really sprinting. Tight end, you got to sprint. Tight end, you got to block. Tight end, you got to split zone. Think about how much pre-snap motion we do. So it's not just sprinting on your routes. It's running back this way, running back that way. We also do a lot of pre-snap motion. We also do post-snap motion. And rarely we'll do a pre-snap motion. And then after the snap, you're motioning back in the direction where you were initially motioning. So you're right here, then you're right here, and then you're going this way. All right. So for those that know what this is, this will make a lot of sense. You're basically doing a shuttle run. It would be extremely valuable, especially if we run it back with Garrett Nussmeier. So, yeah, Like we said, and because he's super, I'll go over everything. Will Campbell, I think, will go. Mason Taylor is the next highest draftable Tiger in most draft boards. Okay. I could see a world where running it back would make sense. But the thing is Mason Taylor has been the every down starter at tight end for 3 consecutive seasons. And has had a lot of games where he's never been taken off the field. By the way, he's really missed only 1-ish games. He's mostly dressed out in every single game. Now, who is our immediate replacement for Mason Taylor? Right now, who is our immediate replacement? We don't have one. Bad news. We don't have one. It could be Kamarion Pimpton. It could be. I don't think it's Trey'Dez Green. I don't think that that's his position. He's more of a receiver. Mac Barkway packed his bags. So let me ask you this, Zach. If you want to run it back with Mason Taylor, do you go to him and say, hey, we'll give you $1 million to come back and play another year? Then, yeah, you should take it and come back and become an LSU legend and shatter quite a few records. Well, the funny thing is he has every tight end record. Jared, thank you for your super. And Jared's super chat. Well, let me see. I saw your comment. Yeah, we're in the mix. I would like to think that we are. I haven't checked in on that in a while. I do know that his crap. I can't find. There it is. There it is. Just got back from his anniversary dinner with my bride of 30 years, says Jared. Well, everyone throw some clap emojis in. First off, the fact that you're here with all of us after an anniversary dinner, that is a good example of a 30th anniversary. Wife's probably already knocked out sleep. And you're like, I gotta hang out with my PHLers. Gotta hang out with your people. This is your real family, not Nicole. I'm kidding. I love me some Nicole. Even though I never met Nicole, Jared's lovely wife. All right. Congratulations. Leon's in here. Hear me talking bad about his Hurricanes earlier. Can I say something, though, without anyone getting mad? College football is better with the Hurricanes in the mix. It's just better, right? There's something about them that gives you a tingling feeling. I'm not joking. You know something else? I'm glad Boise State's back. You know something else? I'm glad Nebraska is going to a bowl game. I was having dinner with my dad last night, and you know, I went on that rant earlier about like how big Reggie Bush was. Like, we have a bunch of young 20-year-old PHLers. The Reggie Bush era was insane, but the Tom Osborne Nebraska era, it's just so insane. Like, it was so, like, the way they did the option is just clockwork. I mean, it's insane. Nebraska being relevant is good for college football. That whole state loves him, the Cornhuskers. Good for the sport. I'm saying it's good. Now, is it fun for a new power to pop up? Yeah, sure. Well, let's be honest. You feel good that Nebraska's back. Some of you are kind of indifferent. I need the Nebraska. Okay. Now, you guys know I don't back down. Are there takes in the past that I'll change my opinion on with more information? Sure. But I did say something last night about Tre'Davious White that made a few people angry. And I was actually complimenting Tre'Davious White. So he plays for the Baltimore Ravens now, and he has had a bunch of brutal injuries. And yesterday on a shallow drag, Quentin Johnson beat him in man-to-man coverage, and that's hard to guard. It's hard for any DB on the planet to guard a shallow drag in man-to-man coverage. QJ dropped the ball, and he was wide open. I'll show you the play. It might get me demonetized, but oh well. All right. I'll show the play. Tre'Davious White at LSU was always a man of principle. Right? That was a big reason why he got number 18, right? The dude worked his ass off. All right. So this was a play last night, Monday Night Football. And that's him at the bottom of the screen right there, guarding Quentin Johnson. And I want you to notice what he does after the drop. I'll slow motion it, okay? That's number 25 for the Ravens. I want you to watch what he does. 3rd and 6, team up by 7. And once again, this is a hard guard. Now, prime Tre'Davious White would be all over Quentin Johnston here, all right? Notice what number 25 does. Ball is dropped. While it was cooked, if he catches it, he picks up the first down. Look at Tre'Davious White. Just runs to the sideline, back to the bench. Doesn't do seatbelt. Doesn't give you one of these. Doesn't give you one of these. Okay? And you're winning. He probably could have gotten away with the celebration. But the LSU DBU era guys, they wanted themselves to dominate. Now, I don't think I would have cared if he would have done this or give a high five or whatever. Okay. But I was complimenting Tre'Davious White. Complimented him. He's a man of principle. He's just going to go back to the sideline and say, "Hey, I got lucky." I don't know how many current DBs would do that. I swear, these younger DBs, every single one of them, they will get their asses chalk outlined, burnt to a crisp, dusted. A receiver would perform an exorcism on them. And what y'all tell me in the chat, what do the DBs do? No, you got cooked. He dropped it. It was an overthrow. What are you celebrating for? What are you celebrating for? But Tre'Davious White said, "I'm just running to the bench." Tell him, strap. Scrap. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to I'm not saying it's bad to celebrate. But don't act like you're freaking prime Darrelle Revis on rainy. Don't. And then when you're losing. So Tre'Davious White, man of principle. 4th quarter of a Monday Night Football game. His team was winning. He didn't care. He didn't care. It blew his assignment. And then he just ran straight to the bench. He is man of principle. I love Trey White so freaking much, man. And his Buffalo Bill era was still underrated. Injuries. Let's go to Zach. What are your thoughts? And look, I want your honest thoughts on this as well. Comment below. Am I wrong? Should it be okay to celebrate if you get burned? Should it? I know you've been down on him, Carter. What are your thoughts on a transfer portal center and sliding Chester to guard? Or stick with him since you're this deep? Yeah, I don't think you can bring him back as a starting center. I don't think you can. Now, there would be many I would say, hey, he's going to get better. Let's give him another season. But the thing is I think there is a piece of LSU that thinks he's getting better. Now, I will say, I thought his Vanderbilt game was the best. PFF didn't agree. PFF still gave him an overall kind of grade. And then we have, and look, Jason knows ball. Yeah, you guys know Jason has always been a measured guy. Let me ask you this. Type 1, and let's do it now. Let's do it now. 297 of you watching on different platforms. Let's see. 116 on the tube. Thank you guys so much. 53% of you to the Thanos Stewart poll. You believe he would be the best commitment in this class if he would have picked LSU. Interesting. Let's go here. Now, I've been very blessed to have you guys value my opinion on LSU football, but I want you to come to your own conclusion. I know I've been mostly down on DJ Chester, but understand it's not me being down on him. It's me being down on the situation, right? Ed Orgeron struggled with the backup center thing. There is no reason for us to keep rolling Liam Shanahan back out there without a feasible backup plan. And look, as Shay points out, PFF is not the be-all, end-all. It's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm telling you is if the sample size is larger and the sample size saying, hey, our team of graders never have viewed DJ Chester as having a good game this season. Never, not once did he have a good game. That is a little concerning. So the poll question's up. Would you like DJ Chester back as your starting center? Now, Call Me Larry says this offensive line has been the worst in 10 plus years. That is not true. That is not true at all. Okay? That is not true. Let's not get carried away here. Was this the most disappointing year? Maybe. But they were still, for the most part, overall a solid group. This was not the worst offensive line in 10 years. It's not that bad. Okay? But, yeah, I mean, if I had to choose who would I go get in the portal, I think center might be the number one position for me. Xavier Thomas can come back next season. Emory Jones would actually be a really good center. And look, Do offensive tackles get paid more? Yeah, they do. But did you know that Justin Jefferson was not the only NFL player this past offseason that became the highest annual paid player at his position ever? Lloyd Cushenberry was as well. A center. You can still make money playing center. But the funny thing is, I will say, if Bryce Underwood would have been in this class, he would have had I was, like I said, I've already deleted everything. I was 20 minutes deep into a Bryce Underwood film study that was going to release on early signing day. So a lot of days were wasted of my time. I could have been cutting NFL film studies at Crush. And I'm very passionate about the NFL, but you guys know LSU football is always number one for me. I was so excited about him coming. Bryce Underwood would have been my second highest ranked commitment of the last 4 years per my personal rating. So I say all of that. Emory Jones is top 5 at a better grade on Emory Jones than Will Campbell. And I viewed him as a guard. And I do think that's his best position, but we've rarely seen him play that position. And there is a piece of me that wonders, well, what if our offensive line this year could have been Will Campbell, Garrett Dellinger, Emory Jones at center, Miles Frazier at guard, and Lance Hurd at right tackle. But Emory Jones is a guard. I feel he's a guard. Now, is he athletic enough to play center? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Jason. He said, when Dellinger was healthy, Chester didn't miss many assignments. His pre-snap needs work. That is true, Jason. Okay. The amount of assignments DJ Chester missed wasn't a whole lot. But it depends on your definition of miss. When I think of the word miss, I think it could be one of two things, right? If you miss an assignment, that means you were supposed to pick up a twisting DT, but you fanned the wrong way. But then you also have a missed block where you're supposed to block someone and you whiff. And then you have the worst, where you, and it's worse from my view of you as a player. Not so much as, the overall success of a play. The worst thing is when you have your assignment right, but you get whipped. And that comes down to physicality. Now, Brian Kelly has multiple times mentioned that when it comes to their advanced science, DJ Chester has increased his strength by 142%. He is one of the highest rising athletic stars per their metrics. Now, the big benefit of DJ Chester to Zach and Jason Super Chat. And by the way, Jason works like crazy. Hope you're getting to spend some time with the fam during the holidays. Jason's always hotel to hotel, man. It's the life. Center is also really hard. And it's been tough. How different would LSU football look if they would have had Cedric Van Pran Granger another one of those top 100 New Orleans recruits that left. It's every year. There's going to be multiples. Okay. All right. Something else I want to get to tonight. We'll first go to this from Jason. How dangerous can the receivers be if it's Aaron Anderson, CJ Daniels, Xavier Thomas? Then factor in Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Kylan Billiot, and Jelani Watkins. Well, another interesting name is Chris Hilton. Chris Hilton could come back another year. Type Y for yes, type N for no if you would like to run it back with Chris Hilton. And you notice one thing that is overarching is the point that I made to start today's video, this live stream. I hope Brian Kelly is doing more work for next year's team than our next opponent, because it's all we're talking about. I think Oklahoma is a fun team. I think Oklahoma is a fun team to break down. Sam is like, depends on the price. All right, Pierce. I think you have to separate yourself from this conversation. Shout out Zachary. Carvis wants to run it back. Shasha, Shay. Call Me Larry says no. Chance says no. Bill says I'm over it. Well, he's been hurt every season. He doesn't change the aspects of his game that he struggles with, which is drops, and jumping too early. And I've never seen this before from a top 100 recruit. Never. Like, this was in some of his high school tape and in the early like LSU film. He leaves his feet. Like, you don't get a lot of yak when he catches a football. Now, do you get a lot of speed? Yeah. Do you get a lot of field stretching? Yeah. But there are a lot of yards left out on the field. Like, even some of the deepest catches he's made, there were more yards out there to gain. So if LSU wants it back, sure, let's run it back. You're telling me we can get a year 5 top 100 Louisiana wide receiver with some talent, just wildly inconsistent? Yeah, I don't mind taking a chance on that profile at year 5. Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. But you better have contingency plans in place, because you cannot simply rely on them. You just can't. I mean, it's just more been the case than not the case. I've met this young man's parents. Every single human being that knows him staunchly defended him as Brian Kelly ripped him to shreds. And the thing is it went mega viral because John Boy and Cam Newton did little social media shorts. And honestly, I did a Patreon study on it. And all three of us were in, and this was in the middle of the Brian Kelly heat, where everybody was criticizing Brian Kelly, including myself. I sided with Brian Kelly. If the coach is telling you to change a part of your game that is 100% under your control, which is jumping too early, and you don't do it, then you deserve criticism. I'm telling you, all of you that have kids, all of you that have friends, if you tell them to stop doing something and it's totally under their control and they don't do it, you should pop off on them. All right? I mean, it's natural. I mean, it's not anything crazy. So those things have got to be fixed. I mean, they do. But let's take a look at a few of these other names here. Obviously, Kyle Parker out for the season, hurt. And he had that deep pass versus UCLA. That ball was so perfectly thrown. Like, I mean, the ball was put right onto his chest. I mean, that was Garrett's most accurately thrown football on the season. Other than that, lots of drops. Part of why I like Kyle Parker, though, is he was young for his class. So athletically, he's not as developed as other players, even in his own recruiting class. Shelton Sampson, if you would have, like I said, if you would have told me 2 years ago that he would be completely healthy for 2 seasons and not have one catch in a game, not a single one, and he actually played, it's crazy. And Jelani Watkins is also, I've been begging for him to play, begging. Because for as much as I heard smoke about him during practice and in camp, there's no redshirt rule. See what you have. Same thing with Billiard. They've not played in. I mean, you could play him as much as you want to in this next game. See what you have. But it is a huge benefit. Aaron Anderson, CJ Daniels, Xavier Thomas. And look, some things I get right. One I got wrong. I thought Xavier Thomas was going to dominate. And I wondered where Aaron Anderson's fit on this offense would be. Aaron Anderson's been our best player. If I were to rank our best players on offense, I mean, I knew Mason and Will Campbell were going to be great, so I don't know if that really counts. But Aaron Anderson's been our most consistent player. He's really not had a bad game. I mean, that's crazy. He's not had a bad game. And the reason why the Aaron Anderson comment is interesting, and your second super chat was about CJ Daniels and Aaron Anderson are your best true receivers on the team, and obviously not counting Mason at tight end. I don't think either one of them are like dominant, take over the game X wide receivers, right? But here is the one thing about Aaron Anderson that I felt was interesting. He did some things last year. Okay, he had some moments of brilliance last year. He had a huge third down catch early in that Arkansas game that moved the chains when our offense was struggling. And that was really Jaden's only like rough half in the SEC all last year. So normally you see something. You see something the year before a player breaks out. So to Jason's super chat, we've not seen a single play made by quite a few of the receivers he named there. Kylan Billiard, Jelani Watkins, and Shelton Sampson. Literally, none of those three guys have made a single play. That's why I want to see Kylan Billiard and Jelani Watkins get a shot. But normally there's a reason. If they were truly truly dominant in practice, they would have played him. They would have played him. Jason questions seem to. Yeah, I mean, you could see those Grambling drops. Sometimes you wonder those Grambling drops. I honestly thought the Grambling drop. I'm serious. I thought the Grambling drops are going to be good for him. All right, so he's still not caught a pass in a game. He had 2 catches that should have both been touchdowns versus Grambling from Nuss, and he dropped them. I mean, it was just not crazy drops. And I was like, oh, this is going to Brandon LaFell. This is going to be his villain origin story. No. Let's go to Sam. He says, there are a million portal wide receivers, not many alphas. Are there alpha wide receivers in the portal? It is true there are a million wide receivers in the portal. More than you would think. It is by far the most populated position at every level of football. Seriously, every level of football, there is an abundance of wide receivers. A ridiculous abundance. Every single level. But Sam is right. There's not many alphas. I will say, I do see a world where CJ Daniels is all SEC level good next season. Right? And the reason why that's important is I don't want Aaron Anderson's role to change. I don't want him to be on the outside and doing what Kyron does, right? They're different players. But if CJ can be on the outside, you can find another guy in the portal that could line up on the other outside and still keep Aaron Anderson in the slot. And Aaron could play on the outside as well, too. But yeah, I really do mean I've never seen a wide receiver get so unlucky like CJ Daniels. Like, it's been so bad. He gets open, he blocks well, he's a team first guy, and I can show you that. Well, I can't show you the text message, but I got this from a very reputable source saying Carter, CJ Daniels, South Alabama happened. There was an injury. Okay. And boy, for that guy to tough it out the way that he did, missed the Ole Miss game, for the most part played in the other games, ended in one in a boot, and has still continued to play. It's ridiculous. It's downright insane. I was told it was going to be multiple games. Dude is a freaking warrior. Plays for a bigger cause, too. I'll tell you this, Cortez Hankton's a good coach, though. I wouldn't debate that. Daniels could be another Terrace Marshall type receiver. Yeah, you're right. And Aaron Anderson could be Justin Jefferson. Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that comp for Aaron. And that's obviously Justin Jefferson's one of the best football players to ever play the sport, right? Based on early NFL returns and what he did in college. I don't think Aaron, excuse me. I don't think Aaron is like that level of explosive. He'll give you some explosive plays, of course. And Jefferson was a slot guy, but I don't think he has like that level of speed and like ankle breaking ability, yes. But tackle breaking ability. I think a better comp for Aaron Anderson would be Jarvis Landry, right? Not the absolute fastest guys, but vice grip hands, constantly gets open. 5-star recruits. And yeah, but I mean, Aaron Anderson has had some Justin Jefferson moments this year. King says, I think Kyron Lacy underproduced this season, truly. And you say this with a Kyron profile photo. Yeah, based on what we saw in the USC game, it did happen. The numbers weren't otherworldly. They were still very good, though. They were still very good. Let's be fair. But this was, to me, a problem. And I think it overall hurt Kyron in the long run. Garrett threw a lot of heavily covered balls to Kyron Lacy's hands. And the reason why that's not good is the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football, they don't just throw to a guy. They throw to the right option. So what does that mean exactly? Well, I think there was too many force feeds to Kyron this year, and it hurt us. He felt like Kyron is our best receiver, which I still think Kyron talent-wise is our best receiver, but I need to force feed him, and it quite honestly should have cost us the South Carolina game, but it didn't. So yeah, I mean, Kyron still had a fantastic season. But we could talk all we want about wide receivers. None of it matters if we don't figure out what we're going to do at OC. And the thing that really hurt LSU's offense, and you don't need to know I'm going to tell you something right now. You don't need to know anything about film. I would like to consider there's 318 people, according to my streaming software, watching this. Might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less. This stuff is, you never know. You never know. But this is not something that you absolutely positively need to know about football. This is another kind of life thing. There's only so many things you can do on a football field. There's only so many different types of plays you can run in the game of football. One big problem Joe Sloan had is our weaknesses began to pile up so much that the things that we were very good at became harder and harder to do. For example, if you cannot run the football effectively, you can stay in very soft coverages defensively, thus meaning deep ball passes are going to be hard to come by. Have we played a lot of quarters and really deep defensive back alignments? We have. Now, why have we? It's not necessarily to defend our deep pass. It's to defend our deep pass because they know we cannot punish them with the run. So they dared us to run, and we really couldn't ever run. Now, did we abandon it at times a little too early? At times, yes. Like, for instance, we were never going to be able to run the football in Ole Miss. They were just tearing us up in the trenches so much. There was just nothing we can do. Nothing. And we had a few creative runs, had a Very creative, running back draw with Caden. But it was so hard for us to run on them. So hard. Okay. But then there was something else that made it hard for us to run. It was Garrett. If we're going to keep it a buck, it was Garrett. He himself wouldn't run when he was given the opportunity. And I'm not talking about zone read runs. We'll get to that in a second. He wouldn't scramble. Now, notice, when I would criticize Garrett's lack of scrambling, it wasn't me saying, hey, he needs to scramble a ton. I was telling him to just scramble once. And he would from time to time. But y'all, I'm telling you, the amount of dropbacks he had and also the sack avoidance he had, for him to run as little as he did is truly astonishing. So if defenses knew, hey, they cannot throw the football deep, but to make their deep passes even harder, we could still defend the run by having our DBs play back. And then what would they do? Well, I'll tell you this. When it comes to LSU football quarterbacks, there are very few, if any, that have ever laced it up that throws a football over the middle as well as Garrett Nussmeier, especially when you factor in him being in the first-year starter. He is an amazing thrower over the middle. But guess what happened? Teams started walling off the middle of the field. Literally, you can go and watch the Florida game. They would have linebackers turn their backs perpendicular to the line of scrimmage and not even pay attention to the quarterback right when the ball was snapped. Now, why was that? Well, they didn't fear our run, and they didn't fear our QB run game. All right. And that's just the scramble part of it. Now we can get into the actual run game itself, actually handing the football off to our running backs. Well, because zone read and inside zone were such a big part of our offense, we didn't have that with Garrett this year, which is why I begged and pleaded for him to just pull it once. I don't know if it's Sloan telling him to not pull it. I don't know if it's just an automatic handoff every single time. But when you don't have the pull option, guess what? That's one less hat you have to commit to the box. Perfect example. I think this honestly would have helped LSU out this season. I think one of the best things a university can do is make their coordinators available to the media every single week. Because for them to publicly talk things out and make them rethink things. I would have loved to have heard from Joe Sloan or Blake Baker in front of the microphone. Alabama every week, coordinators available to the media. And it is illuminating what you're able to hear from their experience. All right, so I was listening to Kane Womack speak at the podium today. And he was asked about Oklahoma. And he said Jackson Arnold being able to run changed everything. And he actually got a little technical. Some coaches don't like to get technical. But he got technical, okay? And he was talking about the extra hat you would have to put in the box to defend against the zone read and Arnold, and they were still able to do it. And if you want to see why, I actually broke down all the film last week. Power Hour SEC. I've covered Oklahoma all year long. I've done a film study. Pretty much every Power 4 game Oklahoma played, I did a film study on them. Every single one. You learn more about their offense. And Womack broke it all down. So why is that relevant to us? Well, number one, it tells us what we're going up against on Saturday. But number two, it tells us what we don't have. It's not the fact that Jaden left. It is a big thing that one of the best college football quarterbacks ever left. It's that if this was even, let's say, someone like a Jackson Dart level runner, which is not a special level runner to Garrett Nussmeier, the effect still would have been massive. Because if you never pull it, backside ends can either crash down the line of scrimmage or like what Vanderbilt did and what Texas A&M did, they would legit leave their post and run around and make a tackle behind, not behind the line of scrimmage. They would go back to where the linebackers are and make a tackle on the backside. So if you never pull the zone read, that's one less thing. All right. So let's go through and I know this was a lot of things. All right. So LSU can't run the football effectively. So DBs were able to play back. And then on top of playing back, we couldn't throw deep when the few opportunities were presented to us. Okay. Then when it came to actually defending our run again with their soft coverages, they never had to worry about Garrett in the run game. So what did they start doing? A lot of intermediate defenders would just seal off the middle for in breakers, digs, slants, and we're still able to convert some of those versus Florida. So that hurt us. And then on top of all of that, we had a first-year play caller who rarely schemed anything wide open. So all those things worked against us. And guess what happened? We still, when it comes to EPA per play and offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency, we were still pretty daggone good. So all those things kind of wrapped into one hurt us. All those things. And the problem was, it was just too many things for our offense to overcome this season. Even though we had very good players. We had the best tight end in the school's history. Make a case. You had the best left tackle in the school's history. We had really good receivers. I don't think anyone would consider this a top 5 wide receiver core in the modern era. We're very good at wide receiver. I would say we would have a top 7 wide receiver core in the SEC. I think that's fair. We found some running backs. But what happened? Why ultimately did our offense fail? Well, number one, turnovers. But number two, the way we ran offense, and it goes back to the play caller as well. I don't like offensive schemes where a lot of your plays, like 90% of your plays, require every single player to execute an assignment for it to work. Okay? There were so many plays where if one player blew a block, the play was dead. And what a lot of the other coordinators in the SEC do is they run a lot of player-proof plays where you can blow a block and the play still work. I'll tell you something that's very interesting. I had Nico Ava, Nico, the Tennessee quarterback, as my number 1 rated quarterback, not in this last recruiting class, but the recruiting class before. And I hammered the over on his passing total because I was that big of a believer in his talent, and I was that big of a believer in the Heupel offense. Y'all, he needs 245 yards for my over to hit this weekend versus Vanderbilt. Probably not going to hit. It is a miracle that he did not get it. I mean, he has missed so many guys running wide open. The Heupel offense generates so many open players. It is crazy. It is like you're watching a different sport. Texas, the same way. Quinn Ewers has not played good. He has not played good. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I've taken a ton of heat from Texas fans. He has not played good. But why is it still working? Guys are wide open. And you think, well, Texas has the best athletes. It is not that. It is not that. They are getting schemed so freaking wide. It is like Sark is drawing shit up. Like this is how good Steve Sarkisian is. He ran a play that went so viral on Twitter. The Kansas City Chiefs in their biggest regular season game of the season this year versus the Bills. First play of the game. They ran a Sark play. They stole it from him. That's how good he is. Wide open. I mean, that, and I'm not asking Joe Sloan to do that because he is still a decade away from doing that level of stuff. Maybe at least 5 years, whatever. But the reason is, do we have some things that get schemed wide open? Yes, but it's rare. It's rare. I'll tell you this. We can run the hell out of flood concepts. We're really good at that. But it's not all about the scheme. You got to have the dudes. If it was all about the scheme, Sark could go do this at Kentucky. You can't. You got to have some dudes. All right, let's go to Christopher. Carter, can you find out how many drives this year were actually stalled by false starts? Well, that goes back to the scheme as well in your quarterback. You can we've had so many instances this year where, we're making checks and trying to find the absolute best play. Something else that happens is when you run plays where every block needs to be executed well, it makes every offensive lineman feel like they need to get the absolute best jump on the football. Okay? Perfect example. My favorite run scheme this year in the SEC. I begged LSU to use it. They've not used it. All right. Tennessee used it versus Alabama. And guess what? Oklahoma used that same concept that Tennessee ran versus Alabama. And I broke it down in this last film study. They're going to run it against us. I have yet to see someone stop it. It's a risky way to run a play, but basically the entire design of the run concept requires none of your offensive linemen to execute a single block. It is all by guile and creativity that gets the play going. And what happened? Well, Tennessee started the game with a huge explosive run, but Dylan Sampson fumbled it. They should have scored. Oklahoma pulled it out versus Alabama, and it was their first touchdown of the game. And it's crazy to think that the best runs that they had in those games was a play design where not a single offensive lineman has to execute a block. It just got to run out the play. All right? We don't really have any of that. Now, once again, that's a very extreme example. So there you go. I will tell you this. I'm taking Garrett. I do not think I'm taking Garrett. And that's not LSU bias. Like I feel like I've been very critical of Garrett. I've also felt like I have been very defensive over him. I think there are times where I've gone overboard in either direction. Now, another thing is we have had this year with the LSU offense extremely weak links. We just have. It's just how I've seen it, okay? And there is a reason why in football, the most valuable gap in football are your A gaps. And I feel like left tackle is a harder position to play than center. But I think you can work around bad offensive tackle play. It's so hard to work around bad center play. It just is. Now, Chester would snap the football accurately. It's just really, really, really hard. All right. We've had elite left tackle play. And for the most part, Dellinger, Miles Frazier, and Emory Jones have done their jobs. Might not have been up to expectation, But it's hard. Center is so hard to work around because if he's struggling, that means there's a lot of chaos in the A gaps. It's just like it's impossible for there not to be. It's honestly physically impossible for there for unless the center's pulling. So there you go. Great stream, y'all. Next, we'll answer a few more in the next five or so minutes. We'll answer as many as we possibly can. We hit a hundo and supers tonight. Big thanks to Jason. So we got to give out. Let's do this right here. It's not an auto. I was looking at this card earlier today. This is a 2023 Jamar Chase Prism card. Who deserves it? Who deserves it? Jamar Chase Prism card. Zach, Van, Jared, Jason, and Sam, along with LA Mom, has got us here. Big shout out to Julie on Venmo. What do y'all want to do for the Oklahoma game? Kind of last second trip I'm making here. What do y'all want to do? Oh, Angel reset time today. I'm so freaking excited for LSU baseball this year. Also, super shout out to LSU women's basketball and LSU men's basketball. Really impressed with our starts this year. Okay. We'll start talking more about them. As time moves on. Kent State finishes the season 0-12. Crazy. Travis Hunter did not make the Jim Thorpe Award finalists. Ooh. So, what do we have to do to get Warren Buffett to be an LSU fan? No, man, I'm serious. What do we have to do? Like, I don't. Let me see. I know he released a statement today about his. Let me see. He released a statement about his future earnings, what he wants to do with. He sent a letter to Berkshire Hathaway stakeholders. Can't believe that every college football playoff team. I want you to see this. Thank you for the super chat, Cranes DT. Let me talk some defense. Let's do it. I'm going to show you this though. Each college football playoff team, $4 million for making the 12-team field, $3 million for game expenses, and you get parking and concessions. Tennessee's game versus Vanderbilt is a $10 million game for the Vols. Now, I also want to show you this. Okay. Let me see. I do think they're going to go away from the home field advantage for playoff games. I also think you could see some really shaky officiating this weekend. You also could get some first-round rematches, which I don't want. I'm telling you right now, I know I got very into it with Blake on his show last night. Y'all do not want a world where 5 SEC teams get in. Even though, as much as I hate Ole Miss, I would really like to see them get in the field because I do think they can win it. I do. Okay. But, you know, if Tennessee wins, they are locked in proverbially for a home field advantage playoff game. Let's go to Crayons. Yes, you're right. LSU would have won the national championship last season if they fielded a semi-competent defense. Now, would this year's defense have won them the national championship last year? No. That was something I thought at the beginning of the season. I don't think we're good enough defensively to have won the natty. No, I don't. Because we can't We can't really stop the QB run game now. That was a big reason why we lost our games last season. Jordan Travis, mobile. Jackson Dart had big plays with his legs, and obviously we all saw what happened with Milroe. Yeah, I mean, our defenses have mostly not been good. It's another rough season defensively. Was the Vanderbilt game a step in the right direction? Yeah. But I mean, did we do some really good things? Yes. They still averaged 6.4 yards per play. There were guys open for other touchdowns, but we did make life harder. We did have some guys play better. But, you know, we just need more dudes. Call Me Larry says Shaq is a billionaire. I don't think he's a billionaire. Do I think he will get there one day? Sure. But $1 billion is so big. I mean, it is so big. And there's a difference between. Actually, I don't know what technically makes a billionaire. So he might already be a billionaire. Let's go to Shasha. He literally changed the defense to a 4-3 and showed it was effective. Well, how effective has it been? Would you consider the Florida game to be a good defensive game? Maybe. I mean, it was okay. Would you consider Vanderbilt a good defensive game? Yeah, it was okay after that first big play, but even with that big play, I mean, 6.4 yards per play. I mean, that's still a pretty large number. That was Vandy's first 6-yard per play game versus any SEC team this year. And they cleared it comfortably. Uh-oh. He comes out of the woodworks. PHL legend. 2 hours into the stream. We wouldn't be here today. I'm serious. Y'all know. We wouldn't be here today without the president of the Justin Jefferson fan club. Michael B has actually some of my favorite Justin Jefferson cards I sent him for helping us build PHL. I said I want a Kiffin and was laughed at SMH. Now, you're right. I will say, though, as big of a Lane fan as I am, and Lane is really damn good, and as great as he has schemed up this offense, they have averaged 6 yards per play in every SEC game outside of ours. And they dropped a 70-yard touchdown at the beginning of the game. I'm telling you, I have never watched so much Ole Miss football like I have in the past couple of weeks, and it's actually made me believe even more how good this team should be. Lane held them back. There is mutiny amongst Ole Miss fans right now. And honestly, it's not as bad as the weeks that we have had recently. It's pretty damn close, though. I mean, we got 3 natties. Ole Miss is just trying to get into a 12-team playoff, and they choked. I am not sure Lane could get out of his own way. Now, talent-wise, yeah, he's probably better than any coach in America. And he's definitely in the top 10 in terms of talent. But y'all, they want his neck for the Ulysses Bentley situation right now. It's ugly. Like, I'm telling you, it's ugly. I've learned a decent amount about it. And I Would also like to share this. Rarely does a local college football reporter really press a head coach. Now, I'm not saying that local reporters do not ask good questions. They really ask good questions for the Brian Kelly press conference, which really opened up a lot of eyes for our offseason strategy for this next weekend. So I defend the local press. It's just like, because a lot of people armchair press conference questions now because all the press conferences are live streams. It's like, my whole channel is based on commentating players that are actually on the field. I always include, this shit's hard if you're actually on the field and playing. Same thing's true with press conferences. It is intimidating as hell to push head coaches in press conferences. All right. Whether it's for access biases or anything. One of the big Ole Miss reporters pushed Lane Kiffin on the Ulysses Bentley situation. Pushed him. You rarely see that in college football. In the NFL, reporters don't really care. That's a little bit more welcome there. College, you got to walk a little bit more of a fine line. And I won't get into what happened with the Bentley stuff, but basically, let me, how would I put this? Okay. Let's say we were playing a playoff game this past weekend, and we were playing against, or playing Vanderbilt for a playoff game. And God forbid, Caden Durham got hurt, and Josh Williams got hurt. Now, who would you put in? If Caden Durham got hurt and Josh Williams got hurt, who would you put in? You'd put in Caleb Jackson. But let's say instead of Caleb Jackson, for the chance to go to a playoff, at running back, you decided to try out Jelani Watkins. That's essentially what Ole Miss did this weekend. Now, if I was in that situation, I would consider Xavier Thomas at running back or Juwan Johnson or someone like that. But if push came to shove, we would need Caleb Jackson to play. Now, Ole Miss had that situation, but instead of Caleb Jackson, they had the running back who led the team in yards per carry versus SEC opposition. Lane Kiffin would not play him versus Florida. They played a 170-pound wide receiver at running back. No, you're right. You're right, Shay. You're right. And they played fewer plays. So because they play at a slower pace, that's going to inflate the yard per play number, sure. But it was still 6.4. Okay, it's still a pretty high number. Now, part of that higher number is because of the fake punt. And that's obviously not on the defense. Now, it's time for us, before we go here, to give out Michael B., we need you back in the chat, man. You make us so much better. It's time to give out this Ja'Marr Chase card. And it's going to go to a man who is in every stream. And that is Tony the Tiger in Kansas. Congratulations, man. You deserve this Ja'Marr Chase card. I will send it out tomorrow. I believe I have your address as well. If not, email me again, Tony the Tiger in Kansas. PowerHourLSU@gmail.com. Tony is in every stream. He does not miss a show. He does not miss a show. Like Jared, he had an anniversary, still made a show. Scott, I will tomorrow. Everybody welcome Scott to the channel. That is the largest hat bill I've ever seen. Dear Lord, Scott. I mean, that is, I mean, Daffy Duck is like, holy hell, that bill. Oh, crap. The founding fathers are like, holy hell, that bill is big. Destiny's Child will make a song about the size of those bills. I mean, look at that bill, man. Nobody circles the wagons like that Buffalo Bill. What the hell is the bill on that hat? That is just an absolute absurdity. I mean, Tony Hawk is saying, oh, let me go grab my skateboard and go rip it on that bill. I mean, I can't go looking at it. I can't. Holy hell. I mean, God. And this selfie is intense, dude. I mean, God bless. I mean, God. And this quite literally is shade. Like, I'm shading your bill, but your bill is shading you. I mean, what the hell is going on with this? I mean, is that a regular size bill? Is it just a camera angle? I mean, what is this? Is it because your bill is kind of Jesper Parnevicking up in the air? For those that got that reference, you're too much of a sports fan if you know who Jesper Parnevik is. Scott, do you think it's a camera? I mean, the camera adds 12 inches to your bill. Pause. That sounded weird. But is it just a normal bill? Like, I see those large hats that people wear. But what is this? I mean, that is larger than Antonio Cromartie's phone bill. Oh, the Pro Max. So, the 16 Pro Max adds length? Don't tell Brett Favre. He'll be buying a lot of those. Oh, man. What a life. What a freaking life. What a life. Oh, God. Oh. Jared has an STTDB t-shirt, and he's like, well, Jared admitted earlier he went on his 30th anniversary dinner. Could you imagine going to wake your wife up saying, yeah, I'm watching Carter on the stream. Honey, we got to go to Verizon tomorrow. Oh, man. That is so funny. That is so funny. Like, literally, oh, you want to talk OL? And shout out to Brett Favre. Controversial, yes. No shade to Brett Favre. He's been through enough. Here's the thing. Dude, this drove me insane when someone earlier this season said, I don't like Gary Nussmeyer's turning the football over. He's starting to look like Brett Favre out there. I was like, the 3-time MVP? Like Brett Favre is like the off the field stuff is very valid, horrible things that he did. And we mostly see the turnovers, whatever. Brett Favre was that dude, man. That dude was so good. Like, he was so damn good at football. Mike Holmgren. God, dude, those teams were freaking crazy. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We will be live tomorrow at 6. We will have, do y'all want to go live on Thursday? Thanksgiving stream? Sure. It is. Pow. Out. LSU. Boom. Top super chatter tonight, Mr. Lethon. And we are doing... Oh, my mom made gumbo. I'm telling you, my mom makes the best gumbo on the planet. Nobody makes better gumbo than her. It's impossible. It's virtually impossible.